What up, Ninja Clan, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am, as always, your host, the Atomic Ninja G, and today we're going to be doing a different type of video. Today I'm going to be creating a deck from scratch to take on Ursula. So I've got a couple of videos planned coming up, which I'm going to call the Gauntlet. And part of the Gauntlet is going to be taking on Ursula on each of the 4 difficulties in a row. And if I manage to beat Ursula in every single difficulty, then I will be opening the magical golden envelope of forbiddenness. So, in today's video, I'm going to be looking at Ursula's deck, Ursula's abilities, and for the most part, I'm going to be using the Disney Lorcana app to help me build a deck that will take on Ursula in all 4 stages of difficulty. So the first thing we're going to look at are the encounters themselves. We know that the encounter is the easiest level and Infinite Wrath is the hardest level. Now, we are going to be building a deck that will take on each of these difficulty levels. So even though I may put a lot of cards in a deck that I don't need for the encounter, by the time that deck gets up to Infinite Wrath, they may be super duper important. So let's take a look then at what she does. So in the encounter, Ursula's special rule is that Ursula doesn't draw additional cards for lore each turn. Now, depending on how many players there are and all that kind of stuff, Ursula will start to draw extra cards depending on how much lore she actually has. But in the encounter, that does not happen. Now, the great thing about the app is that as you're doing the scores and stuff on the app, it will tell you how many cards she has to draw, which is fantastic. So then let's take a look at Dark Realm, which is the normal difficulty. Now, she has no battleground ability in the Dark Realm, which some of you may be thinking, oh, that's great. But actually, it's not. That just means that now, when she hits those low milestones on the mat, she will be drawing that extra card. And as part of her rules, if she drops below that much lore, that does not affect how many cards she draws. So for example, if you get to 20, and 20 lore means that she draws an extra card, if you then take lore away from her, so she goes back to 18, she would still draw an extra card because she's already hit that milestone. Then we head over to difficulty number 3, the Layer. This is hard difficulty. And her battleground ability is that Ursula draws 1 more card each turn. And that starts right out of the gate. So even when she passes those milestones, she's going to be drawing an extra card for her battleground ability and an extra card for passing that milestone. And then, as if things weren't bad enough, we go to Infinite Wrath. Battleground difficulty extreme. So her ability says Ursula draws 1 more card each turn, which is the same as the other one, but she has an extra ability. Whenever a character of Ursula's is banished, she returns that card to her hand. That's really rubbish. The advantage here, though, is that it's only character cards that get banished. So if we manage to take out her Trident, or if we manage to take out her Hexwell Crown, they do not go back to her hand. So those are her battlegrounds. Let's take a look now at her deck and see what it is her characters and her abilities and her items and stuff actually do, and what we need to bake into our deck in order to combat those things. Okay guys, so as you can see here, she has 16 unique characters. Now these are not all the characters, some of them have duplicates. For example, she has 4 Triton's Daughters, 2 Prince Eric, that kind of stuff. But individually, she has 16 unique characters. That is pretty insane. So we're going to go through each of these characters one by one, working out what they do, what they don't do, and all that jazz. So we're going to start then with Triton's Daughters, who are a 0/2/3 quest for 1 vanilla card. So let's be honest, they're always coming out. We're not going to worry too much about these guys. They are what they are. Then we'll take a look at Prince Eric. So he's a 1 cost, 2/5 quest for 1, and he has Bodyguard. So we need to take care of Eric before we can take care of anything else should he show up on the board. And because of his ability Ursula's Century, he will automatically play Exerted. Then we've got a 2-cost Mad Hatter. He's a 3/5 quest for 1 vanilla card. We then have a 2-cost Gaston. He is a 2/4 quest for 1 and has the ability Positively Primeval. When you play this character, deal 4 damage to the opposing character with the lowest cost. And if there's a tie, then the opposing players choose from the tied cards. So that's not fantastic. He's going to be played and doing 4 damage straight away to one of our characters. And the other thing is that if we take on Gaston after he's been played and he goes to the discard pile, in extreme mode, he's going to go back to Ursula's hand because a character of hers has been banished. So already now we're starting to think of things that can combat that. So I know like in Emerald, there is a lot of hand disruption. You know, maybe Emerald is a good choice to bring against Ursula because of that. Moving on then to Bruno Madrigal. He is a 4/4. He's quite tough. Quest for 1. She has 2 copies of this guy, and he has the ability Dark Prophecy. When you play this character, each opposing player puts the top 3 cards of their deck into their discard. Now, to be honest with you, I don't think that's that bad. Yeah, we're going to lose a couple of cards. It's going to be 3 cards that maybe we really wanted. Could they be our star cards? Maybe. So it may be worth baking in some sort of recovery. I know Hades does a good job of that, so maybe that's Emerald Amber, maybe. But again, she's only got 2 copies of him, so we could go all these games and never see a Bruno Madrigal. Then we've got Jetsam. He is a 5/3 quest for 1 and has Ursula has great powers. When you play this character, deal 1 damage to each opposing character. So there we go again, cheeky damage. So between him and Gaston, we're doing a lot of extra damage here. Now, a way we could combat extra damage is maybe resist. So now I'm thinking along the terms of maybe Emerald Steel. Magicka Dispel then is a 3-cost, 4/4 quest for 2 vanilla card. Not really worried about her, but it's the fact that she quests for 2 is what makes her quite dangerous. Then we have Hey Hey. He's a 3/2 quest for 1, but Hey Hey has evasive, so that requires us to either take cards that do cheeky damage, or to take cards that have evasive, or give characters the ability to gain evasive. Then we come to one of the most interesting cards in this entire deck, Hercules. Now, she only has 1 copy of Hercules, which is great. So he is a 3/7. He has Bodyguard. He also has Ursula's Sentry, which means he comes in exerted. So you have to deal with Hercules before you can deal with anything else. But he's also got the ability Everything Has a Price. During your opponent's turn, they may pay 3 law to banish this character. Now let's take a look at Tamatoa. He is a 3/6 questing for 2 and has the ability Pick One. When you play this character, the opposing players together choose an item or location of theirs and banish it. So she has 2 copies of Tamatoa, so that's not fantastic. But Tamatoa is the only character that deals with items and locations. We might be looking at a location item heavy deck. So then we got Flotsam. He is a one-of-a-kind card. 5/5 quest for 2 has Bodyguard and Ursula's Sentry. Ugh. Next up, we have Shark, who is a 4/7 willpower. Again, just like Hercules, that big 7 there, absolutely terrifying. Not the worst one in her deck. We'll come into the worst one in a minute. He also quests for 1 and has the ability Big Bully. When you play this character, deal 2 damage to each opposing damaged character. There's that cheeky damage again. But it's only to already damaged characters. So I'm going to be honest with you, I don't tend to worry so much about the Shark or the Big Bully ability because I like to keep my characters at tip-top health. But if you are worried about that, then maybe some characters that do some healing or some action or item cards that allow you to heal may also be a good way to go there. But personally, I'm thinking more along the lines of Steel so that I can employ Resist. Then we've got Captain Hook, who is a 7/4. Now, he doesn't have a lot of willpower. It's pretty average, but that 7 means he's probably going to be taking out my characters the moment I challenge him, unless I can start doing cheeky damage back to them. So, for example, in the deck that comes with the Illumineer's quest, we get Namari, who will do her damage to up to 1 other character, or the Mulan that comes with that deck, that will do her damage to up to 2 other characters that turn. Next up, we've got Anna. Now, she is a 5/6. Again, not the worst one, but she does have evasive and quests for 2. Then we've got Jafar. Jafar, in my opinion, is the most horrible card in this entire deck. He is a 7 cost. He is a 9/9. So whatever's taking on Jafar needs to be big and beefy and heavy hitting. And then in extreme difficulty, he's going straight back to her hand. So we need to find a way that if he gets played, we can banish him and keep him gone for good. Plus he quests for 3. Which is absolutely ridiculous. And then her last unique character is Minnie Mouse. She's also 7 cost. She's a 6/7 quest for 2 and has confusing presence. When you play this character, each opposing player loses 2 lore. In the extreme version, if we get rid of Minnie, she goes to a hand and gets played next turn, she's gonna cost me 2 lore. So here we have all of her items and actions. Now, these top 3 up here, these are all of her items. She has 1 copy of these 2, unfortunately, has 4 copies of Ursula's contract. And then, everything else down here is an action. Which is kind of good, because all of these bottom cards here are one-shot cards. They're done, they're dusted, they go away. Even in extreme difficulty, they don't come back. Unless, of course, her deck runs out and then they all get shuffled back in. But hopefully, that's not going to happen. So we'll start then with Ursula's Stolen Trident because that is the card that she always starts the game with. And it has the ability, it's my power now, gain 1 lore. So already, I want item removal. Then she has a Hexwell Crown. The Hexwell Crown has perks of power. Exert this card, draw a card. That's going to be a huge problem when we get to extreme difficulty because it's going to allow her to maybe draw a potential of like 4, maybe 5 cards a turn. So again, item removal, super important. Especially when you throw in Ursula's contract to the mix. Because Ursula's contract is a 0 cost card, which means she is always going to play it. And it has the ability Sweeten the Deal. Opposing players can't use battleground abilities. Minor stipulation. At the start of your turn, banish this item to gain 3 lore. She has 4 copies of that. If she manages to play all 4 copies, she's got 12 lore. So again, item removal, very, very important. Moving on to her actions then. And in no particular order, we have Crushing Wave. Deal 2 damage to each opposing character. Again, there's that cheeky damage. Then we've got a 6 cost Lightning Storm. Each opposing player loses 3 lore. I mean, there's really not a lot we can do about that. It's rubbish. I've lost games because of this card. Then we have Entangling Magic. It's a 2 cost. Each opposing player discards a card. Then put this card into your Inkwell face down. Then we have the 7 cost Tsunami. Now this is basically be prepared for Ursula. Banish all opposing characters. Now this is super important because I'm thinking along the lines of taking lots of locations because she doesn't have a lot of things to deal with locations. So even if she does banish all of my characters, if I've got like a bunch of locations on the field, it means I'm going to be able to just keep getting low. Also, it's a 7 cost, so it needs to come up in the late game for her. Then we've got Tentacle Swipe. It's a 2 cost card. Deal 1 damage to each opposing character. Then put this card into your Inkwell face down. Now this one is more likely to get played. Turn 2 or 3, she can easily play this. Even turn 1, to be honest with you, depending on what she draws before. And those kinds of cards, that is what is drawing me towards Resist. Then we got a 6 cost Riptide. Banish all opposing characters, items, and locations with a cost of 2 or less. Not a great card, it's quite devastating, but there is that stipulation with a cost of 2 or less. So, going down that locations mindset, if I brought a bunch of locations that were 3 or more, this card doesn't touch them. And again, it's a 6 cost card, it's a late game, if it comes out early game, it's going straight to the Inkwell. Then we have Fortunate Hit. It's a 0 cost card, and it is my favourite card in Ursula's deck because it works to the advantage of the player rather than to Ursula. So Fortunate Hit says the opposing players together choose one of your items and banish it. Now, she only has 3 items. We've talked about this. If we can manage to pull that card from Ursula's deck, that is fantastic. Okay, then we've got Whirlpool. Now, Whirlpool is a 4 cost card. Exert all opposing characters. They can't ready at the start of your next turn. This is why I'm thinking locations. If all my characters are exerted, I'm not going to be able to challenge or quest for basically 2 turns. So locations here could come in real handy because Whirlpool doesn't affect them. Then we have this 2-cost Lash Out, and she has 2 copies of this card. Each opposing player chooses and banishes one of their characters. This is a horrible card. It can be played early game, and you're just automatically banishing stuff. If you've only got one character on the board, it's bye-bye your board. If you've got a really cool combo setup going on, this card can really disrupt your gameplay. And, unfortunately, not a lot you can do about it. 3-cost Choppy Waters, deal 2 damage to the highest cost character each opposing player has in play. If there's a tie, the opposing players choose from the tied characters. Again, she's got 2 of these cards, but it is a cheeky damage card, which again is what is drawing me towards resist, which means one of the inks I'm taking is going to be steel. It's the other colour that I'm not too sure about. Then we have a 3-cost Capsize. She has 2 copies of this card. If you have 6 or less ink, put the top 3 cards of your deck into your inkwell face down. To be totally honest with you, in the extreme difficulty, that could actually play to our advantage. She has less than 6 ink. She could be taking out 3 characters that could be devastating for us. She could take out like maybe an Anna, a Hook, a Jafar, or a Mini. They could be gone from the game without being put back into a hand because they're now ink. But it also has a second ability. If you have 7 or more, each opposing player chooses and banishes one of their characters. So, even though her having less than 6 ink is an advantage to us because she could be getting rid of potential threats, the moment she's got more than 7, this is a devastating card because there's nothing we can do to stop it. And her last card then is a 5-cost Typhoon. Return all opposing exerted characters to their players' hand. Now, Typhoon is more of an inconvenience than it is a threat. It could be that we spent an entire round exerting things and everything's exerted and everything has to come back to your hand. It's inconvenient, it is a problem, but it doesn't actually get rid of our characters. In fact, sometimes if all of our characters are damaged, the fact they're coming back to our hand just automatically heals everything. So sometimes actually Typhoon can help the player rather than hinder them. Okay guys, so we have now narrowed this down to biggest threat. So here we have all the cards that she has that are item cards. She has 6 of those. We definitely want to get some item removal in this deck. These cards here, these are the ones I kind of want to focus on a bit more. These are all the cards that do cheeky damage. So there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those. Now, even though her characters don't attack directly, at some point, I'm going to want to challenge her characters as well. So this is why I am thinking about things like resist so much. Because resist is going to help me to, no pun intended, resist this cheeky damage. And also, it's going to help me when I am challenging her characters. These 4 characters at the bottom are all the ones with evasive. Then these 3 cards. These 3 cards are really special because these are the only cards in her entire deck that will get rid of items or locations. So we've got Tamatoa, who will force me to get rid of one or the other. And then we have Riptide, which will only get rid of things that are 2 cost or less. There are 4 and a 6 cost. So I'm not massively worried about them. I do think locations is a good way to go. We are definitely taking some locations. And I believe Maui's Place, or Maui's Island of Exile, or whatever it's called, gives characters they resist anyway. So that's a definite yes, if I have that card. Because I can't remember what I have in my collection. But if I have that card, it is 1000% coming along. Then we've got Bruno Madrigal down here on his own. So he's the one who basically makes us put 3 cards into our discard pile when he gets played. That's just something to kind of bear in mind. Then we have these guys over here. These are all of the bodyguard guys. These are the guys with a really strong willpower. So 7, 5, and then 2 more 5s. They 3 5s and a 7 as far as bodyguard goes. We can get rid of him with law, which is good, but sometimes not good, and especially when we're on extreme difficulty, I don't know how much I'm going to want to do that. We'll see how it's going. And then Jafar's here because he's flipping terrifying. For no other reason. I was just scared not to put him on my list. So we're going to head over to the app now, because obviously my collection is much bigger than Ursula's deck, and we're going to start building the deck right now. So here we are, guys, opening the app, big book, and we're going to head on over to our catalog at the bottom here, and we're going to start a new search. Now, if you don't have this Lorcana app on your phone or your tablet or whatever device you're using, guys, get it. This app is absolutely awesome. Maybe one day we'll make a video and talk about how awesome this app is, but for now, just trust me, download the app. It's flipping incredible. Now, the first thing we're going to do is click this button here that says owned only, because I don't want to be making a deck and then find out after I've built it that actually I don't own any of those cards. So what we're going to do now is we're going to scroll down as far as abilities. We're going to click this box, and then we're going to click the box that says resist. Now, it's going to show us 13 cards that we own that have the keyword resist. If you haven't used the app before, let me give you a very quick rundown. Let's click on the Cinderella here. So you have the card as normal. You've got the little arrows on the side to switch back and forth. At the bottom, it tells you how many you've owned. But if you go back to the main screen, you'll notice at the top of the cards, there is a little banner symbol with a number in it. That is how many of that card that you currently own. And some of them are kind of shimmering back and forth. That means you own at least one foil of that card. Now, this is one way that you can search for resist. However, the issue here is that we're only seeing characters with resist. We're not seeing items or characters that give out resist. So we're going to go back, we're going to turn that off from abilities, and we're going to go to the top here to the search function, and we're going to type in resist. Oops. No, we're going to type in resist, not anything else. Resist. There we go. And we're going to click return. Now we have 26 results instead of 13. So we're going to click on that. You're going to see much the same cards, but as we scroll down, you're going to see cards from other inks, and you're going to see actions, items, locations, and even some songs. Now, some of you who do use the app, you may be saying now, well, why don't you just build a whole new deck? So let me show you really quick. What happens if I click on this top button here? Here's a list of all my decks. If I start building a new deck, it's going to force me to pick 2 colours. Now, we know we're taking steel, but I don't know what other colour I want to take. So trying to build a deck right now is not the best way for me to do this. So we're going to head back here, start a search. We're going to go resist. It's going to do that. It's going to give us, owned only. So again, it's going to show me 32 cards that have the word resist on it, but I only own 26 of them, and that's what I want to see. So because I don't know what other ink I'm taking, this is the best way for me to search for cards that I want to take with me. Now, if I wanted to filter this even more, I can click that little button there. I can do by card number, ink, cost, strength, and willpower. I'm not going to do that, but that is an option if you want it. So let's take a look at this Cinderella then. She's a 7 cost. I have 3 of these. She's a 5/5 quest for 3, which is great. She shifts for 5, which is also very cool. Has resist 2, which means she'd be able to resist all of Ursula's cheeky damage. And whenever you play a song, this character may challenge ready characters this turn. Now, I'm not really planning on taking many songs, but it's resist 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to heart this card. No. There we go. We're going to heart this card, and it's going to put this card in our favourites list, and we'll go there later on and narrow that down. And then we'll do Kronk. So resist 1. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may deal 2 damage to chosen character. Oh, now then. Oh, this is great against Ursula. So he's resist 1, which is good. Even though she's got a lot of do 2 cheeky damage, or Gaston has 4, he would still survive that even if he took the full 4, because he's got a willpower of 5. And you can deal 2 damage. That's cheeky damage, and it's guaranteed every time as long as I banish something. So even though it is kind of conditional, there is a way to get this done almost every turn. I like that a lot. We've got 4 of him. We are going to heart that. Then we have the Prince. So I love the Prince. The Prince is a great card, but I don't think he's that great against Ursula. So he's a 3 cost. We have 9 copies of him, so I have plenty. He's a 1/3, has bodyguard and resist 1 quest for 2. Now, we've already talked about the fact that Ursula's cards don't actually challenge. So having bodyguard isn't really an advantage anymore. Whereas the prince is great in a regular game because it forces my opponent to attack him with resist 1, actually against Ursula, bodyguard is kind of not great. So we're not going to take the prince with us because we don't need to. So guys, I'm going to keep looking through this list of cards. I'm also going to look at item removal and I'm going to look at discarding cards as well. I might even take a look at cheeky damage and I'll see you guys in a moment. Okay guys, so as you can see here, I have gone through multiple different decks. So I started out trying a ruby steel deck. I then got distracted with a whole ward and resist kind of deck. Then I very quickly kind of abandoned this idea of ward and resist. And as you can see, I went through a couple of different variations of a deck until I landed on this one. Now this is the deck that I am taking up against Ursula. Now normally I would only take a 60 card deck because it is much easier to find the cards you want in a deck that only has 60 cards as opposed to a deck that has more than 60 cards. However, this deck is built around draw power. So I'm okay with taking a couple of extra cards because we're going to be drawing a lot of cards, and also I don't want to be running out of cards because if my deck is empty and I can't draw cards, then I automatically lose. It's also designed to quest quickly. So you're going to see here we have a lot of locations and a lot of characters that will get me lots of lore very, very quickly. So we're going to do a quick deck breakdown and then we'll go from there. So Deville Mana is literally here for that 1 lore every turn, and Ursula does not have a lot of cards, as we saw earlier on, that deal with locations. And Deville Mana is also there, as well as some other locations which we'll talk about in a minute, so that if Tamatoa does get played, and I have to pick a location, and I have Deville Mana and one of my, what I would call, essential locations, or more important locations on the board, it means that Deville Mana is the one that's going to be taking the hit. So we've got 4 of Deville Mana. Then we've got 3 Hidden Cove, so characters here get +1 strength and +1 willpower. Again, this is a disposable location, but it is there for those instances where I may need to challenge and I don't quite have enough willpower or I don't quite have enough strength. It doesn't generate lore, and in all honesty, this card may not make the final cut. I may take it out, but I'm going to do a couple of practice games, see how it goes, and if I don't need it, then it's going to go. But for now, it's going to stay in the deck. Then we've got Forbidden Mountain. Again, exactly the same reason as the other two. It's there for the lore. Then we've got our first character, who is a 2-cost, inkable, 1/2, quest for 1, Cusco card. Okay, where am I? When this character is banished, you may draw a card. Our first card that's going to be drawing cards for us. Cusco is a 2-cost. He's an early gameplay kind of character. He's just there to kind of kick off that drawing thing. Then we've got Belle. This is a fun one. She is an inkable, 2/4 quest for 1, and has the ability Use Your Imagination. While an opponent has no cards in their hand, this character gains +2 lore. So when you're playing against another player, unless you have a deck that specifically gets rid of cards from their hand, it is very tricky to get this type of card right, because 9 times out of 10 they're going to be drawing. It's going to be hard for them to have an empty hand, especially early game. However, the mechanics of Ursula's deck are very different. She will play her hand every single turn until it is empty, which means at the start of my turn, she will have no cards in her hand. So I am almost guaranteed every turn for Belle to have 3 lore. Moving on then to Friends on the other side. One of the very, very few actions I have in this deck, it's just draw 2 cards. That's why it's there. That's why I want it. Huzzah. Then we've got Jasper. So Jasper's in this deck because of his ability, Puppy Napping. When this character quests, chosen opposing character can't quest during their next turn. Ursula's characters will always quest. They will never challenge you. So they'll exert, they won't quest, nothing will happen. Jasper is here to stop some of those cards from questing. Since none of them have Reckless, they will just exert and nothing will happen. happy days. Then we got Cusco's Palace. To be totally honest with you, this is another throwaway location. It's there for the lore. Its ability says that whenever a character is challenged and banished while here, banish the challenging character. That is not a good ability to go up against Ursula with. Number one, Ursula will never challenge me because she doesn't have Reckless. And number two, I don't really want to be banishing her characters, because to banish her characters means that they go back to her hand in extreme mode. However, it will generate one lore in the background, and again, it's that throwaway location that if Tamatoa comes out and I have to pick one, I can pick this instead of one of my important ones. Then we have Maleficent. Again, she's here for her ability. When you play this character, you may draw a card. Nice and simple. The Sorcerer's Tower, this is a mid-range kind of card. So the first ability it has is Broom Closet. Your characters named Magic Broom may move here for free. I don't have any Magic Brooms in this deck, but the second ability is Magical Power. Characters gain +1 lore while here. So if I can get some big questers out and get them to this location, then I can be questing for a lot of lore really, really quickly. And then we have Wildcat. So Wildcat is a 3-cost inkable 2/3, quest for 1, has evasive. Hooray! We love evasive. Disassemble. Exert this card, banish chosen item. He's literally here for guaranteed item removal. Then we've got Daisy Duck. So she's a 4-cost inkable, quest for 2, 2/3 character, has the ability Thwart. Whenever this character quests, each opponent chooses and discards a card. But Daisy is there for that, just in case I have to banish a bunch of stuff. I can quest with Daisy, or multiple Daisies, get rid of a bunch of cards from Ursula's hand. Happy days. Then we have Fang. Now Fang, again, is one of those mid-range locations. 4-cost, move cost of 2, 6 willpower, generates 2 lore, which is phantasmic, and has the ability characters gain ward and evasive while here. So again, if I need to deal with like an Anna or a Hey, then hopefully I'm going to have Fang in the mix so that I don't have to use my Wildcat to do it, because I may have to banish my own Wildcat and then I lose that ability to remove items from the game. Now we have Flynn Rider. Now he is here basically for the same reason that Belle is here. He's 4-cost and inkable, quests for 4, he shifts for 2, we're not going to bother with that. Has evasive, hooray, 2/3 character. Has the ability One Last Big Score. This character gains -1 lore for each card in your opponent's hands. Because of Ursula's mechanics, we know that on my turn, she's going to have 0 cards in her hand, which means he's going to quest for 4 lore almost every turn he's on the board. If I combine him with the Sorcerer's Tower, he's going to be questing for 5 lore a turn. Then we've got this Jafar. So this Jafar is a 4-cost 0/5, quest for 2, has the ability Hidden Wonders. This character gains +1 strength for each card in your hand. Now, this Jafar is here for 2 reasons. Firstly, because this is a deck that relies heavily on drawing lots of cards, his strength should ramp up quite quickly depending on how many cards I have in my hand. Now, the other reason that he is here is because I have another Jafar that requires a shift mechanic. So this was the best Jafar to bring in terms of ability and shift target. He's not the lowest cost Jafar we have. We do have lower cost Jafars, but in terms of his ability, he is the best one for this deck. Now we come to the most important location in this deck. It is a 4-cost inkable, move cost of 1, 7 willpower, generates 2 lore a turn, and has this incredible ability using the mirror. At the start of your turn, for each character you have here, you may draw a card. If I can get this out on turn 4, we are going to be ramping like no one's business. Then we've got 5-cost Maleficent. She's inkable, 2/3, quest for 2, has the ability Dark Knowledge. Whenever this character quests, you may draw a card. And she also has Divination. During your turn, whenever you draw a card, you may move 1 damage counter from chosen character to chosen opposing character. Now, this is why she's in the deck. The ability to move damage around is just amazing. And then we have the Queen, also a 5-cost 4/5 quest for 1, and has the ability I Summon Thee. Exert her to draw a card. Simple as, the Queen is here to help me just draw cards. And then we have our star player. This is Mother Gothel. She's a 6 cost, 3/6, quest for 2, and has the ability, skip the drama, stay with Mama. Mother knows best. Sorry, I couldn't resist. While this character is exerted, opposing characters can't quest. The whole aim of this deck is to get Mother Gothel on the field. Now, she's a 6 cost. She's expensive. It's going to take me at least 6 turns to get her onto the field, which is why Jasper is in this deck, because he is a 3 cost, kind of like diet Mother Gothel, if you will. So this Mother Gothel, that while she's exerted, nothing on Ursula's side can quest. And as we've talked about already, if they can't quest and they can't challenge, then they do nothing. Next up, we have Robin Hood, who is a 6 cost vanilla card, 4/5, quests for 4. This is a great card, and I've always wanted to use this card. I've never had a reason to use this card, so he's in the deck because Robin Hood is awesome. One of my favourite Disney characters. And if anyone wants to fight me in the comments about how awesome Robin Hood is, don't bother because you're going to lose. Okay, and then our last card is this Jafar Striking Illusionist. Now, Jafar is basically here for his ability, Power Beyond Measure. But let's take a quick look at the card first. He's a 7 cost. He's a 4/5, quests for 1. He shifts for 5. Now, this is the other reason that the other Jafar is in the deck, so that I can get him out for 5 ink instead of 7. If I have to bring him out on 7 ink, it's not a massive deal, but I like the fact that I can shift him as well. He has evasive, but again, he is here for Power Beyond Measure. During your turn, while this character is exerted, whenever you draw a card, gain 1 lore. So the aim here is to have lots of people at the Queen's Castle, for Jafar to be exerted, and just to gain a whole bunch of lore, because I've got a whole bunch of characters at a location that is going to allow me to draw a whole bunch of cards. Also, I love Jafar. Jafar is one of my favourite villains, and look at this card. This card is absolutely beautiful. I love this card. I love this character. I really like this deck, guys. I am really excited to use this deck. I am so excited to use this deck, in fact, that I already went ahead and built it. That's right. This is that deck. Now, they're all the cards are in order because I took them out of my boxes in the right order and stuff. But this is that deck. So what happens now? Well, I'm going to spend a couple of hours today just going through a couple of test runs of this deck. This is a draft deck, if you will. If I make any changes to this deck, then I will let you guys know at the start of the next game. In that video, I'm going to explain to you the rules for my gauntlet challenge. I'm going to tell you about any changes I made to the deck. And then we're going to go straight in and see if we can't beat Ursula with a deck that I have constructed. So guys, thank you very much for watching this video today. Let me know in the comments below if you enjoy this type of video where I do kind of a deck breakdown kind of thing. Don't forget to turn on those notifications so that you don't miss the beginning of the gauntlet, hopefully coming out this week. And speaking of those notifications, while you're clicking that notification bell, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like and share this video, because it super helps the channel and I really appreciate it. But until next time, guys, I have been the Atomic Ninja G. You guys have been awesome, and this has been a Disney Lorcana deck building breakdown Ursula's rules type video. Yes. I'll catch you next time, guys. Goodbye.